Hey everybody, this is Perch. Time travel. Time travel's been used in comics, plenty. It tends to get used in weird little waves. So Bendis seems to be a fan to some extent. He did the Age of Ultron bit, which involves some time travel shenanigans, and then he also did the X Men, the bring the kids home, kind of. Bring the kids to the future. To write. What was that plan exactly? Of Beast. That plan made no sense if you if you think about it. Um, anyway, so we've seen time travel show up a bunch in comics, and then it goes quiet for a while. I think because the writers realize to some extent that the entire concept, and when they use it, it's a bit of a trap for themselves because time travel. Once you acknowledge that as a reality in comics, it kind of removes the stakes from anything. I mean, you've seen these comics where there's a tragic death, and the characters are really like, "We can't. This is a loss we can't come back from. This is the worst ever. Supergirl has died in Crisis, and or and at some point you kind of wonder if does one of the character. I understand this is movie canon versus comic canon, but at some point, does somebody like Superman, bitch, why are you crying there, holding her? You could just fly around the Earth a couple times, spin it backwards, and she'll be fine. Does at some point does Superman look over at the Flash like that? Get on that treadmill thing. I've seen things happen, so get this fixed. I think this is one of the areas where it's a fun element to play with, and I think there's a lot of comic writers, and I've talked to several of them that their mind often goes there, and it makes sense. This is kind of a science fiction meets fantasy meets superhero genre, where you're like, time travel would be fun to play with. It's kind of what if um, which Marvel's basically solved to some extent by just making what if, and the same thing with Elseworlds. But it, the idea of time travel, and I'm pretty sure the late Jim Shooter, I'm going to credit this to him. I'm about 90% sure this is credited to him. Had commented that he didn't like time travel as an estimate for exactly this reason that at some point any stakes that the writer is building up gets kind of removed because the characters could just undo it. And that's why things like what if, I mean, I said tongue in cheek, but that's why things like what if existed, because you get to explore hey, here's a cool different way this could have all gone down that we might have explored in a time travel story. But, but that breaks the whole universe when we have it. I think you can do time travel in comics if it's accidental, meaning the heroes don't know how to do it. They don't, there isn't a Doctor Doom platform of time travel floating around to deal with, and so you can, if it's something that the heroes stumble onto or the villains stumble onto, right? As well. I mean, if the villains get their hands on time travel, it's like it's kind of what Hickman explored in the Ultimate Universe. Just have the evil version of Reed Richards just go back in time, and be like, no, that spider's not going to bite Peter, and no, this ship isn't isn't going to go into cosmic rays, and we're just going to put heroin in this injection into Steve Rogers, not actual super soldier serum. But it's just it's an element in comics that is always so fun to play with, and then also feels like once you do, you've screwed up comics. It's kind of it's like a black pill to some extent. I was trying to, as I launched into this, I was trying to think of time travel stories that I enjoyed, and the reality is there are lots of them. It's funny that you generally I like I like stories where they've done it. I like even the classic stuff where you had like Doctor Doom and Iron Man go back in time. What was that Iron Man? Was that 200? You have some elements. You have the Days of Future Past thing. That's a little bit different, I guess. Kitty Pryde kind of manifesting into a version of herself. Uh, so I think you have these stories where it is fun, and granted you're not supposed to think about it. I think writers kind of can clumsily uh, make up for this by doing a bit where it's like, well, yeah, time travel exists, but consequences could be dire. I mean, you could go back and step on a butterfly, and the butterfly could, have sex with a moth, and then that would lead to a mutation that would then erase the entire existence of humanity. I mean, you could, they do that, but it doesn't really make sense when you're given these warnings about the dire consequences of time travel, and then over here at X-Men, Beast is like, "Fuck it, let's just bring all the young characters into the future and give a bunch of knowledge. I mean, Cyclops is being kind of a dick, so this will show him. I'll show him a young version of him. In all seriousness, if you know what I'm talking about, this was right after AVX. Brian Michael Bendis took over the X-Men, and I'd love to sit down with Bendis and really interrogate this run, because it felt like it was not fully baked in his own mind when it came out, because the Beast is like, I'm gonna, Cyclops, got drunk with power, killed Xavier, he's acting more like Magneto. The Phoenix Force made him do it, but maybe he wasn't wrong. It feels like maybe, he went too far, but did he? And they kind of, even the whole AVX thing in general was an issue. But anyway, the Beast decides to bring the X-Men of the original X-Men, the 5, to the future for reasons. I mean, this is where it started to feel half-baked. It's like, would it be fun if the X-Men, would it be fun though? I don't know. But they're there, and then they hang out with the kind of Wolverine-led team for a while, and then they go off and they join the Cyclops team. It's just like the whole thing was that entire angle, even down to young Jean Grey being like, "You're gay, Bobby." All of that was just thoroughly bizarre. But I'd love to Bendis, like, were you making it up issue by issue, or did you have a bigger plan? Because you had like this Trial of the Beast, but that also kind of ended like a wet fart. Like that, like none of that made a hell of a lot of sense. And what? And imagine the weird feelings, because like you had young Cyclops hanging out with Kamala Khan, and they kind of in some areas almost insinuated that there was a little bit, not a full blown romance, but there's at least a little bit of a deeper closeness there. So now he has all those memories. So now he's running around, and he's married to Jean Grey, but she's off in space, and he's got all these. When I was young, I used to pal up with Kamala. All weird. Okay, so I got off track. Time travel. You can get some good stories out of it, but I also think it has consequences that then future stories really get handcuffed to. You just don't have the freedom to tell stories with consequences. And it, and again, when I've mentioned this before, this has been a big debate. I mean, this very topic has gone on for hours and hours in comic shops. And if you've been so fortunate as to been in those, you'll hear every single angle of this thing. But the challenge is, you get some people who will subscribe to the idea of, yeah, but the heroes know it's too dangerous to do this kind of stuff. And then the heroes seem to do this stuff with fairly, like, they seem to disregard those rules fairly, easily. It's like, well, this character died, and but we can't contemplate going back and saving him. And Steve Rogers, he just got shot on the Capitol steps, and that's no good. And we could go back in time and save him live, but we don't dare, because it could undo humanity. But oh no, here's this other situation where we want to show the Cyclops as being a dick, so we're gonna just use it. And or even, I mean, look, Age of Ultron had big stakes, but even there, it's like, well, the world is all screwed up and everything is bad, but I don't know, let's just go through time a bunch and see what happens. Anyway, I don't know. So I guess the question gets thrown out to all of you. Do you like time travel stories? Are you like me? I do enjoy these stories. I just then regret everything that comes after. That's a bit extreme. But is there a case where time travel has actually worked and doesn't have kind of ripple effects with other parts of the universe? Is there a world where time travel is fine, used appropriately? The only thing I can kind of think of, and this is from many conversations of comics shop, a long-standing thought, is I think you have to do a cake and eat it too. You can have time travel elements, but you can never have any of the characters, heroes or villains, control it. It's kind of like one of those things where, some characters are in some kind of battle. There's a weird cosmic burp, and the negative zone energies conflict with the apocalypse rays, or whatever it happens to be. And then a couple of characters get thrown through time. I think that's better. And so maybe in some ways, I'm about to defeat my own argument. It's a little bit what happened with Batman during the final crisis that Morrison did, where he was flung through time. after getting hit by the Omega Omega beams. And that story, I mean, it was Batman traveling through time, and there's some fun elements to that, but in hindsight, that also was kind of stupid when all was said and done. But I don't know. Okay. All right, enough out of me. What do you think? Time travel, good, bad, trap? Let me know in the comments below. Is there a time travel story that's worked? And what's the example of the absolute worst? The time travel story that just shit the bed on every level. What do you got there? Let me know, and thanks for listening.